What's going on, everybody? This is NFL Empire, and I am back with my mock draft 2.0. This is post trade, so post Sam Darnold trade, post San Francisco, Miami, and Eagles trade, and this is post free agency, so we have a lot more options and we have a lot more answers going into this mock draft, so we don't have to guess as much. For example, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I thought they were going to get a wide receiver in free agency like Kenny Galladay, Will Fuller. They didn't. So more likely than not, they're probably going to take a wide receiver in the first or in the beginning of the second. They have a lot of picks in the first and second rounds. So we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars picking Trevor Lawrence. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about Trevor Lawrence. Everybody's talked about him a lot. I don't think that we need to really mention anything that's already been mentioned before. I think it's a little bit redundant. But if you guys do want me to do a breakdown on any of the quarterbacks or any of the prospects at all, position-wise, I can. But he's the number one prospect, and I don't think it needs to go any further than that. Then he's the best player in the draft. Now, number two, everyone's been saying the draft starts at 2. I think the draft starts further than that. I think the draft starts at 3. I think Zach Wilson's a lock for New York. I think he's an incredible prospect. I really, really, really like Zach Wilson. Incredible arm talent, really mobile in the pocket. My biggest issue with him is he hasn't been tested in college. He played with one of the best front fives in the nation at BYU, and his competition wasn't really all that good. There wasn't a lot of edge rushers to challenge him, but I'm not really worried about it. I think Zach Wilson will be a successful quarterback in this league because of the build, because of the arm, because of his intangibles. I think that his ceiling is almost just as high as Trevor Lawrence, and I will stick by those guns right there. Now, I think the draft starts here at 3. You have a couple options. They're all quarterbacks because you don't trade all that draft capital to take an offensive tackle, to take a tight end. You don't do that. If you do, I'll be very, 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 very surprised unless they really like Kyle Pitts or they really like Penei Sewell. I don't think you do that. I think you're taking a quarterback. You don't take Mac Jones. You don't trade all that draft capital to take a guy like Mac Jones, who you could have taken at 12. I think you could take Trey Lance. He has a lot of potential, high ceiling. Reminds me of Josh Allen coming out because of the high arm ability, the arm talent, the cannon with low accuracy. He's big. He's very much an athlete. But I think this is going to be Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields has gotten a bad rap since the championship game in college. But ultimately, he's still an incredibly good prospect. I think he could still get taken at number 2. He's very accurate, very mobile. His biggest issue is he holds on the ball a little bit too long. If that reminds you of anybody, hint, hint, Russell Wilson. I think it's a very similar situation that they both kind of walked into. Justin Fields a little bit better situation because this is a Super Bowl team, genuinely a Super Bowl team that he could be taking to the promised land this year. I mean, we could legitimately see in his rookie year Justin Fields going to the Super Bowl. I think it's very possible because that's how good the team is. Who knows how good that defense is going to be without Saleh? But you're getting a lot of defensive players back that were injured, and they're going to be playing again. Now, moving on to number 4. This one is really hard for me because I think this is a trade down situation. But in this situation, we're not trading down. We're just picking across the board as if nobody is going to trade again. There's not going to be any trades draft day. And I know this is kind of a high position to go for, but you need edge rushers and you need a linebacker. Let's go ahead and mix it in 1. Micah Parsons isn't going to be your Mike linebacker. He's going to be your off-the-ball linebacker that can rush the quarterback and he can play in space. He's incredibly fast. He's incredibly athletic. He does have a little bit of off-the-field issues. Hopefully those clear up. But outside of that, I think he could be a really good pick for Atlanta. I think they're missing they're missing that linebacker piece that could really anchor the defense, and I think Micah Parsons could be that guy. Now moving on to number 5, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. I've been saying Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater for a long time now. Since Joe Burrow basically got hurt, I've been saying Sewell. And then knowing more about Slater, I've been saying Slater because I like Slater a little bit better than Sewell. Sewell's ceiling is way higher, but I think Slater coming immediately out is the better prospect. But you don't get a lot of opportunities to draft a guy like this. And I'm not talking about Kyle Pitts. I'm talking about Jamar Chase. And it's a situation that we're putting them in. You don't get the opportunity to draft your franchise quarterback and then your franchise wide receiver back-to-back years, and they've already played together and grown that chemistry, and they've had their best years of college with each other. You don't get that opportunity a lot, and I don't think you could pass that up. I think you could still take offensive tackle or interior offensive lineman later, Landon Dickerson at center, Wyatt Davis or Creed Humphrey at guards, and then you have Alex Leatherwood at tackle. I mean, you have a lot of options later on in the draft in the second round that you can take that would be feasible. Obviously, there are no Sewell and there are no Slater, but they're still good picks, and I really like Creed Humphrey, and I really like Alex Leatherwood. So I think they could take either one of those guys later on. Now moving on to number 6, we have the Miami Dolphins, who obviously moved back to 12 and then moved back up to 6. And I think that's to take a dynamic playmaker and Kyle Pitts. I don't think he could really slide any further than that. I'll be surprised if he does. And if he does, it's because of Sewell or it's because of Waddle. I think those are the two options that they could take. And I know they have Mike Gesicki out there already, but there's a lot of 2 tight end sets. And on top of that, he plays like a wide receiver anyways. He's massive. He's fast. I think that this is an easy pick to give Tua all the tools he needs to be successful in the league. You have lots of they had Will Fuller come in, and I think they needed that wide receiver help. And I think that kind of sways me a little bit away from Waddle because they took Will Fuller, but he is injury prone. And I think Kyle Pitts could fill in if Fuller goes down. I think Pitts could be that number 1 option if he wouldn't come in as being the number 1 option already. Now moving on to number 7, we have the Detroit Lions. And I have been saying this pick for months and months and months. If you go back to my videos and see what happened to the Detroit Lions, it's one of my first videos. I think it's my second video. It's back-to-back videos about the Detroit Lions. In my second video about the Detroit Lions, I talked about what they need to do to be successful, and I picked Devontae Smith all the way back then to be picked by the Detroit Lions. If the Detroit Lions were smart and they used Jared Goff in a similar situation that he was in LA, then they would pick Smith. They would do a lot of screen passes. Devonta Smith is very comfortable in screen passes, and so is Waddle. Waddle's a little bit more explosive, but I think the difference is Devonta Smith plays bigger, obviously because he is bigger, but he plays bigger. He boxes out the corners. Yes, his frame is small, and I do think still to this day, I still think he needs to put on like 10 pounds, at least 10 pounds of muscle, so he doesn't get bullied by the more physical receivers more physical corners like Jalen Smith, Jalen Ramsey, and Jair Alexander. You don't want to get bullied and bodied by those type of guys. And I think Smith still is going to be the pick here. Now moving on to number 8, they have Sam Darnold. They're reuniting him with Robbie Anderson, and they have DJ Moore over there. They lost their number 3 in Curtis Samuel, but I don't think they replace him here. With Waddle, I don't think that you need a number 3 that's that talented. You don't stick a number 3 and you don't draft a guy like that just for him to be a number 3. You draft a guy like that to be a 1 or a 2. I think this is Sewell. I think you need to protect Sam Darnold. He needs the time and the opportunity to be a successful quarterback in this league. I think he can. Adam Gase is a terrible coach. I think everybody on the planet can agree with that. He's a terrible coach. And anybody who gets away from Adam Gase is going to be successful. And I think I think Sam Darnold is not an exception to that. I think he will be successful, but you need to take a guy like Sewell to protect Sam Darnold for the future. Kid's only 23. Sam Darnold is. Sewell's 20. These guys are going to be together for the next 10 plus years, if not longer. If Sam Darnold's healthy, if he plays well, they're together for the next 10, 15 plus years. Moving on to pick number 9. This is why I don't know if the Broncos will trade up, because if the draft falls like this, how I say it's dropping, you draft Trey Lance. Drew Lock, I think, had his opportunity, and his time came and went. I don't think he's the quarterback that we wanted him to be, that Broncos fans wanted him to be. He showed real good flashes. He basically was a flash in the pan at the tail end of 2 seasons ago. I don't think he's very good. I think you need to give a guy like Trey Lance the opportunity to play with Denver. They have good options at wide receiver, running back. Their offensive line is pretty good. I think they have some holes at guard. But outside of that, I think that Trey Lance, He has a cannon. Again, Josh Allen type. If he could be coached up, we're looking at Josh Allen 2.0. Give him a couple years, and I think he'd be successful. Now, at number 10, I'm a Cowboys fan, so this one makes me very happy. And no, I didn't do it on purpose because, yes, the other team that could take this man is the Carolina Panthers. But Patrick Surtain to the Cowboys, I think, is almost a guarantee, at least in the Cowboys fans' minds. If he's there, we're going to take him. At least I hope so. We need corner help really bad, and reuniting with Trayvon Diggs would be a really cool storyline. Look, he's big, he's strong, he's physical. I think his biggest knock is his speed, but I don't think he's slow. I think he likes to play bump and run, and I think he could still be with you at your hip. I don't think there's going to be a lot of receivers that can beat him one-on-one, streaking down the field. I think he could prepare for that. He could prepare for a Tyreek Hill. He could prepare for guys who are incredibly fast, Henry Ruggs. He could prepare for those guys. So I don't think the speed is really going to be an issue. I think that he's going to be perfectly fine. I think he's going to be a cornerback 1, and we can leave him on an island. We, as in the Cowboys, can leave him on an island by himself with the number 1 matchup. Obviously, we'll see, and I'm talking him up because I want him so much, but I think ultimately that's who they pick. And with the number 11 spot, I think, look, the New York Giants front office can't stay away from big, strong offensive linemen, and I think they could give him an opportunity at left tackle. Even, again, kicking him into guard is probably the better option because I think he does have better guard capabilities, but he can play tackle and he can even play center. So I think him being able to move around, I think is very enticing, and I think his slide is going to stop here at number 11 with the New York Giants. And with number 12, the Philadelphia Eagles moved back, which is kind of puzzling. But now that I look back at it, you come out with another first-round pick, and you still get one of the big 3 wide receivers. J.C. Horn is a guy that they could pick too because they need the corner help. But I think Jalen Waddle, he has the best separation in the draft, easy. He's the most explosive player in the draft. Yes, better than Kadarius Toney because Kadarius Toney is shifty. He's a human joystick. He's human joystick 2.0. That's who he is. But Jalen Waddle has the better separation. He's a better receiver. And I think he's probably better in space too. So I think this is the guy for Jalen Hurts to go to time in and time out. I think there's going to be a lot of short passes, screens. I think that's kind of going to be the offense that they run. I don't know if it's going to be successful because it's predictable, but I think it's sustainable for at least a short period of time. And number 13, we have the LA Chargers. And I've been saying this for a while. Every single time he falls right into the laps of the Chargers, and I think if Slater fell to them, I think that would be a dream pick for them if Slater actually did fall, because if they don't pick Slater, let's say they go edge rusher, they go Jalen Phillips, they reach for him, or they go anybody else, really, anybody. I think this is really the pick, but if they go anybody else, and it falls into the laps of the Chargers, they take him. But I like Christian Darrisaw. He could play left tackle. They lost Sam Tevy in free agency. He was really bad anyways. I don't think they care that they lost Sam Tevy because Christian Darrisaw will come in, play left tackle, and be incredibly good at it and be the anchor for that offensive line. And now we're going to be looking at 14 to the Minnesota Vikings. They lost Anthony Harris, but we're not going to go ahead and we're not going to reach down for Trayvon Moehrig, which I think he's a good safety. I mean, he played slot corner, safety. He's not going to be your single high guy, I don't think. I think he's going to need help, but I think he's an incredibly good safety, but not here at 14. I don't think you reach for that. Elijah Vera-Tucker just makes a little bit too much sense for me. He's a really good run blocker, downhill run blocker, exactly how Dalvin Cook likes to play. Once his legs get churning, they don't really stop. He's really good in zone runs and power runs. He's an okay pass blocker. I think that's something he can work on, but when in terms of a run-heavy team like the Minnesota Vikings, this makes too much sense. Now, number 15, I think a lot of people have this mocked up too. That's going to be Mac Jones' spot. And again, if he falls, he's going to fall to Washington or Chicago, and either one of those guys could take Mac Jones. Even if he falls even as far as 12, 13, 14, any of these positions, I think that one of those other two teams can trade up for 5, 6 spots and take him. But ultimately, Mac Jones with Bill Belichick could be a scary situation because Bill can draw up plays that help Mac Jones in what he's good at, which is his brain, his leadership, and making passes under 9 yards. I mean, he's really good at that. They drafted two tight ends, not drafted, I'm sorry. They signed two tight ends who are really good, probably the two best tight ends that were coming into free agency, and they took them both, and those could be security blankets for a guy like Mac Jones. I think that could be a good pick if they end up taking him. I like the pick, especially with Bill Belichick. We know what he can do. Moving on to 16, we have the Arizona Cardinals. This one is too easy for me. Way, 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 way too easy. He falls a little bit to 16. I think he's been boosted because of the Caleb Farley back issues that he's had. But ultimately, J.C. Horn, he's physical, he's fast. I like him a lot. He needs to fix his grabbing issues that he had in college. I think it's fixable. Richard Sherman was very grabby in college also, and it worked for him in the pros because if you grab at the jersey right by the hip and the refs don't see it, they won't call it, but you got to be sneaky with it. It just all depends. I think he could be a really good corner in this league, and with Patrick Peterson leaving, he wasn't very good last year anyways. With Patrick Peterson leaving, you need that number one corner spot. Byron Murphy is out there also, but he's more of a slot corner. So J.C. Horn can fill up that CB1 role, hopefully, for them. Now for the Las Vegas Raiders, still not used to saying that one. They completely dismantled their offensive line, and they need a new tackle, and Tevin Jenkins is the guy for them. They might be going back-to-back offensive line in this draft because they've completely dismantled it. The offensive line was good for so many years. I mean, it rivaled the Cowboys and the Packers for the best line for a long time there. And they've completely taken it apart, trading guys and releasing guys. And I think they need to rebuild it, and offensive tackle is the way to go on this one. Yes, I do think that they could take a guy like Jalen Phillips, even a guy like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, JOK. I think they could take him because he has that hybrid play where he's linebacker, safety-ish type of guy, kind of moves back and forth because he is so small. But I think the offensive tackle is going to be the way to go to try to protect Derek Carr. And Derek Carr is a top 10 quarterback, and you can't tell me any different. You're welcome, Raiders fans. And at number 18, we have the Miami Dolphins once again. And again, I think we're going to go to a place that a lot of people have mocked up. And we could go here at edge. I really like Jalen Phillips if it wasn't for his injury concerns. His concussions, if you didn't know, he's already retired once from his concussions, and he came back. And he's a really good player and has a lot of potential. And he could play in either 3-4 or 4-3, standing up off outside linebacker, or a hand in the dirt defensive end. He's really good, and he's probably a top 10 prospect if it wasn't for his concussions, because those are reoccurring. And you could also try to make the case for a guy like Rashad Bateman, reaching for him, but this is a Najee Harris spot. This is the best back in the draft. I don't care about ETN. He's not the best back. Where is he at? What's his name? Javonte Williams. He has the back build. I think he even rivals Travis Etienne for best back in second best back in the class. But Najee Harris can catch out of the backfield. So you have another security blanket on top of having Kyle Pitts, Mike Gesicki, and you have another security blanket in Najee Harris now at this point because they need a running back. They don't really have a guy. You have all these guys that could be security blankets for Tua, and you could just take an offensive lineman later in the draft and be perfectly fine, I think. I think Tua is going to have a successful year if he can get it clicking on all cylinders. It obviously all depends on him, but I think ultimately he will be successful. And for the Washington football team, again, another one I'm not used to saying too much. I think this one's a little difficult too because you don't really have an offensive tackle that you can take anymore in the first round outside of maybe I think Sam Cosmi is a good tackle. I don't agree with this 37th ranking at all. I think he's a first round talent, and you're going to see here in a minute why. But I think this is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I kind of already touched on him being a linebacker safety combo, and that's something that they need both of. And he fills that role immediately. And I think I think he probably has just as big as potential as Micah Parsons because Micah Parsons does have those off the field issues, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a very fluid and hybrid player that could be kind of a monster in this league, but that's to be seen yet. And at number 20, I think the Chicago Bears might move up in the draft. I already kind of mentioned it a little bit, but if they don't, I don't think that they're going to be able to get a deal done with Allen Robinson, and Rashad Bateman's going to be that replacement. I think he's one of the better receivers in this class. The thing with this receiver class is you have your top three, obviously, in Chase, Waddle, and Smith. But then you also have these back end receivers in Rashad Bateman, and you have Elijah Moore, which I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know a whole lot about. Kadarius Toney, shifty, 6 foot tall. I like him a lot. Terrence Marshall needs to bulk up a little bit. He gets bullied a little bit by more physical corners, which is funny because he's a little bit smaller than Devontae Smith. He's a little bit smaller than him, but he gets bullied more. And Rondell Moore is a 5'9" slot corner. Basically, I think he's gonna be pigeonholed in that slot corner. Slot wide receiver role. But I think he probably could play outside like a Steve Smith type guy. I'm not saying he's Steve Smith. I'm saying he could because he's built in the legs. But I think Rashad Bateman is a good pick here. I don't think there's another receiver that you could pick in this situation. I think Bateman's probably the better one to pick to be a replacement for Allen Robinson later down the line. And we're getting back to what I was saying earlier about offensive tackles and not agreeing with this ranking. I think Sam Cosmi can play left or right tackle. Your left tackle just retired. He went into retirement, so you gotta replace it. Especially with Carson Wentz coming into town, you need to replacement. And I think Sam Cosmi is the guy to go with. I don't think you go with a guy like Liam Eichenberg. I think he needs a little bit more time. He's more of a swing tackle, more of a backup. He can fill a rotational role. Dylan Radunz, I think he's a little bit higher. I think he could almost push first round in my opinion. But I think Cosmi is the way to go when in terms of the rest of the tackles that are on the board in the immediate viewing. Now at 22 we have corner, and I was sleeping on this guy for a long time, and I looked in the film, I looked into him, I looked into his stats, I looked into everything about him. Greg Newsome arguably might be the second best corner in the draft. The dude played incredible last year. I really like him. I am a huge fan, and I think with I'm forgetting Desmond King leaving, I think Greg Newsome fills that role perfectly fine. He can play on the outside or play in the slot. He's good at either, and I think he comes in and fills that role beautifully to where you're not really going to have to worry about where he's going to be covered. I think he's going to be a number one cornerback in the league or a slot corner. And coming back to number 23, I think you have a lot of people have this one mocked up, Travis Etienne, a running back, since they don't really have a running back at this point, and they do need one. It's a little bit further down this board, but I do think that with Robert Saleh coming to town, I think defense is going to be on the mind, and we're going to go ahead and stop the slide of Jalen Phillips. He's an incredibly good player. I think he'd be really scary, especially in a Robert Saleh defense. I think he's going to be utilized the best he can to his abilities. I think he's probably going to be rotated in because of his injury concerns, and they don't want to just burn him out in the first couple of years and then not be able to use him anymore because all these concussions. But I think Jalen Phillips ultimately might be the best. I think he's probably the best edge rusher in the draft. Probably the best. He has the best floor if he doesn't get injured. And I think probably the best potential probably goes around to Kwity Paye or even Gregory Rousseau down here, which is funny. And Joseph Osai is a guy that I really enjoy too, that I hope that he goes to a good team that utilizes him extremely well. So now 24, a lot of Steelers fans are clamoring for this one since they're not going to get Najee. I think Travis Etienne is probably the best back available outside of Najee Harris at this point. Yes, they could take a tackle or a corner. I think the only corner that they could reach down and take is probably Farley. Take a chance on Farley because he is, again, I don't care that the ranking says 34. I think he's sliding at this point. I think he's a good, solid corner that deserves another opportunity, and he could never have an injury again, and it's going to be the steal of draft. But Etienne is going to be the way to go. He catches well out of the backfield. His balance off contact is incredibly good. I mean, we're talking It's the best in the class. And Najee Harris is a good back, and he will pound the rock 15 to 20 times a game and catch out of the backfield 5 times a game, and he's just going to wear you out. But Travis Etienne has the best balance in the draft, period. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's receiver or running back or tight end. He has the best balance in the draft, period, in my opinion. And then he is a home run hitter waiting to happen. I think that's exactly what the Steelers need on offense to give Big Ben another shot to make a run at the playoffs. I don't think they're going to, but I think that this addition could help them a lot. Now at 25, I talked a little bit about how they might want to go receiver. Rashad Bateman's off the board. I think you could go with Kadarius Toney or a Terrace Marshall. But at the end of the day, I don't think you could pass up a guy like Azeez Ojulari on the board. I think you need another edge rusher. I think you're severely lacking it. And if Urban Meyer was smart, you wouldn't just focus on offense. You would surround that defense too, because defenses win championships at the end of the day, and you need that edge rusher to come in and play incredibly well. And I think Azeez Ojulari is going to be that edge rusher for them. Now, number 26, I fought with myself on this one a little bit because the Browns are a really good team, and I wanted to take Barmore here. I really did. But I think the potential of Kwity Paye is too great to pass up. And I think if Myles Garrett helps Kwity Paye develop a little bit more and develop some more pass rush moves, I think this might be the scariest tandem in the league. I don't think they'll stay together forever, just for the pure fact of you don't see two edge rushers stick together that are really, really good ever, because they get paid so much money. But I think that this is a scary pick if it pans out. Now, 27, what do? You go get a wide receiver? Do you go get edge rusher? Are we going to go edge rusher 3 times in a row? I think you could go and reach down for Jason Owe, or even Joe Tryon's okay. I'm not a huge fan. Ronnie Perkins is a little older, and he's all right too. Gregory Rousseau, like I said, and Joseph Ossai, I'm bigger fans of these two guys than the other ones. But ultimately, I think you got to go Trevon Moehrig at 25. 27. He's ranked at 25. Like I already said, he could play slot corner. He plays safety incredibly well. He could play in the box. He hits as hard as anybody else in this draft, linebacker or safety. He hits incredibly hard, but he also can cover incredibly well. I think that the safety position isn't as valued anymore as it used to be. So I think that's why he's sliding, because if it wasn't for the fact of he plays safety, I think he could probably be drafted higher up in that 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 range. We're going to the New Orleans Saints, and I think this is where Mr. Farley stops the slide. I don't think he leaves the first round still, and he might even go a little bit earlier. I think you could maybe even swap a Greg Newsome, or even you can take him here with Pittsburgh because they lost Mike Hilton, so they might take Caleb Farley too and take a chance on him. But Caleb Farley's way too good to pass up at that opportunity, because if you pass on him, I guarantee you that the Packers are going to take him. Caleb Farley's really good, probably the best corner in the draft when it comes to potential alone. And obviously, if we disregard the injuries, I think he's probably the best corner in the draft because he plays the position so well with having such little actual training and experience with the position. I think he could be incredibly well off, especially with he doesn't have to be a corner 1 out there. He could be a corner 2 easily, with Marcus Lattimore being out there, and you have help over the top, obviously, with Marcus Williams. I don't think I'm butchering any of those names. I think it's Marshawn Lattimore. That's who it is. Marshawn Lattimore and Marcus Williams. So you have a lot of secondary help out there, and you don't have to rely on it all by yourself. So I think Caleb Farley could be extremely successful. Now we're moving on to 29, the Green Bay Packers, and I like this a little bit too much. I like this. Kadarius Toney. Yes, it's a little bit of a reach according to TDN, but I mean, shifty, fast, fun. I really want this to happen. I think everybody wants the Packers to draft a wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers. If they do this, I want this to happen. As much as I don't like Aaron Rodgers and I don't like the Packers because they crushed the Cowboys hopes and dreams every single year. I really want this to happen because he's fun, and this would be a fun tandem, especially with Devontae Adams. Kadarius Toney doesn't have to be a 1. He could be a 2, even a 3, play in the slot. He could play anywhere. A lot of screen passes, which they don't incorporate a whole lot out in Green Bay, and they're not very successful at them when they do because they don't have a guy like this to make or break a play, basically. And now at 30, I think that you could reach for a guy like Eric Stokes, or even, I don't know a whole lot about Kelvin Joseph, if I'm honest, but I do know quite a bit about Asante Samuel. Even Aaron Robinson, I think both those guys are really talented corners, and you could reach for those guys. I think it'd be a mistake with a guy like Jason Oweh sitting on the board, and you need edge rusher help. We saw it. It's in the playoffs. You need edge rusher help. You need outside help, and Jason Oweh is going to be the guy to help you make that final push past. I mean, Baltimore tore them up on the ground, and they couldn't get any pressure on, and they were like that all year. Edge rusher is the position that they need to go. Now, 31, we're looking at the Super Bowl runner-ups. Another one that's a little bit too easy. What happened in the Super Bowl? He ran, and he ran, and he ran, and he ran, and he ran. Patrick Mahomes ran around so much, and I think Dylan Redens is going to be the guy to protect him for the immediate future. I think he can play left tackle a little bit, so I believe that he can make an immediate impact for this team. I think he'll start at left tackle since they let go of Eric Fisher. But I think this is ultimately probably the best play, especially how bad the offensive line is now, letting go of Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher. And I don't think they brought back their right guard either. I can't remember his name. It's a complicated name, and he's that guy who has a PhD. I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comment section below if you guys make it this far. Now, 32, we have the Super Bowl winners, and I have this every single time. It's Christian Barmore. This is the end of the draft right here. Christian Barmore is going to fill in our last spot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's their top spot of need, and this is going to be the top interior defensive lineman in the class. There's really not a whole lot of good interior defensive linemen. I think they're being a little bit overvalued this year because there's not a lot, but I think Tampa Bay would be smart just to take another defensive piece for the future, because you can't keep that team together even though you were able to bring back all 22 starters, which has never happened ever. I think there you have a good chance to go back to back. If you guys want to take another look at what we have drafted here today, here it is. And if you guys want another draft where I do trades in them, I can switch over to the PFF version where it lets you do all the trades and whatnot for free. So I don't have to sit here and pay for the Draft Network, which I do like them as a site, and I do like them as some of their mocks and some of their analysis. I do enjoy them. I kind of take a little bit of both from PFF, TDN, and obviously some of the ESPN and NFL stuff, and then you have to watch film yourself. So that's where I got basically all my stuff from. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Who do you hope your team will take? 49ers fans, I don't want to hear the whole I hope we take Trevor Lawrence. It's not happening. Zach Wilson could happen, and that'd be a dream for you guys, but it's not going to happen with Trevor Lawrence. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I really appreciate you guys. If you made it to the end of this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Subscribe. I have a lot more content on the channel and a lot more content coming in the future. We have draft breakdowns, grades, another mock draft. We have quarterback breakdowns coming up, and we have just the offseason as a whole. And I'm really excited for it, and I really hope that you guys stick around for all that. I will see you later. Peace.